The One Micronesia Podcast is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Hafaday, Mogathin, and welcome to another episode of the One Micronesia Podcast. And in this one, man, we talked to him before. We kicked this thing off and literally called this a ripple effect, because we started with Q, and then halfway through the interview, Q threw your name under the bus, like, "Hey, yo, there's one more. There's so many talented Micronesians out here, from Guam, from Palau, all the way to the Marshall Islands. People are doing good out here, and we got to get them on. And this guy has to be the next person, and then we'll make the list, and we'll definitely get through each and everybody. But this guy has to be next." I was like, "Bro, who is it?" He was like, "Bro, you got to get him on, Freddie Gutierrez." I'm like, that name sounds so familiar. Why do I think I've heard this before? And I did my research just yesterday, and I was like, that's where. In 2016, Joan featured him in the mix, talk about his career. But that was 2016. We're in 2021. It's about time to catch up. And for those of you who don't know who Freddie is, what he's been doing in Hollywood, we're about to find out right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the one, the only, Freddie Gutierrez.
Hey, half a day, everybody. How y'all doing? Thanks for having me, man. I'm really, really excited, and I'm honored. Yes, thank you for bringing me on, bro.
Hey, likewise on this side. I mean, getting to know, amazing Micronesians who are out and abroad and just doing their part to really change. I talked to Q about this, about changing that perspective and narrative of how people view our people, especially, those in the States, the Nesians. I know we talked to Q and he was talking about this whole bringing the Nesians together. I think, what you guys are doing out there in your respective careers, I think that is one way to kind of really bring things together. Like, hey, we do amazing things too. And your story, wow. I mean, listening to that interview you did with Joan, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to let him talk, because, the people need to know what Freddie Gutierrez has been up to. So let's start there. Let's get to know Freddie before we get to your career, your amazing career. Let's get to know Freddie on another level. So tell us more about you.
So I'm from Agana Heights, there on Guam. My parents, there you go. The Tuhan, right? So my dad is Fred Gutierrez, also, and my mom is her maiden name is Untitled. She's Jennifer Untitled. So they're both from Agana Heights. And so I'm repping it hard for Agana Heights. I was actually born. It still hurts me. I was born here in LA. Only one in my family. My little brother was born back on Guam, but I was born here in LA, and my dad was here on work with my mom, and obviously. And then we moved back to Guam before I was 1. And then I grew up on Guam till I think I was 7, 8, I think, and we moved here to California, up north. And then we just kind of started this whole, my dad was a Department of Defense, so we bounced around. We were in the Philippines for a while, but I spent most of I'd say a big chunk of my childhood was in the Stuttgart, Germany. We were stationed on an army base in Germany. And it was crazy. It was just weird. And I think a lot of that now was actually what I went through in Germany, which was a lot of good, but it was also, just being a Chamorro kid growing up, coming from like the island and then going to Germany. It was literally culture shock, climate shock, everything you could think of. And then being, there was at the time when I first got there, there wasn't any Chamorros. Once I got into junior high and high school, we started getting some Chamorros, and actually some of my classmates from Germany are back on Guam. And so shout out to Chris Tidingfong. A lot of that is actually influencing a lot of my work now, because of just like representation and just, being away from your own people and having to adapt and just integrate yourself into, society, I guess. So I was there in Germany, and then I moved here to LA in my junior year of high school, and then I've been here ever since.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to dive into Freddie's TV and screenwriting career. We'll be back. You're watching the One Micronesia Podcast, brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.
It only gets better with more. Customize and save with the fastest internet speeds in the Marianas by adding mobile, phone, and TV to your bundle with Business Bundles Plus. Docomo Pacific Business. Work better together.
For the different beats of your life, we're here to keep you connected the way you want it. Plans made for you, by you. Build your own bundle with Link. Select the internet, entertainment, mobile, and home phone plans that fit your lifestyle. Pay for what you want, not for what you don't. Build your own bundle and save with Link.
And we're back. One Micronesia Podcast. We're talking with Freddie Gutierrez all the way out in Hollywood. So, Freddie, let's talk about it. Your TV and screenwriting career. How did that all start?
After film school, I got a job at this production company. A buddy of mine happened to be an editor there, an assistant editor there. And I ended up taking his job. He moved up. And then I kind of used a lot of, a big shout out to my old boss, Jeff Combs. He was, I was working in the post-production department where it's all editing and stuff like that. And the company was GRB Entertainment. They did a lot of TV for like Discovery Channel, History Channel, a lot of those kind of shows. And I was just a PA. I was a production assistant. I just did whatever they told me to do. But being in the post-production department, I made friends with all the editors, and I made friends. I mean, I really got on the good side of my boss, and I happened to come into this job at a pretty advantageous time looking back, because it was a huge moment in Hollywood where it went from the analog world to the digital world. It was, wow. I happened to be there when I first started. It was all still analog, tape to tape, and everything was linear. And about 6 months into the job, they're like, "Hey, we're going to start this new editing system called Avid, and it's non-linear, and we don't know if it's going to work. So we're not going to have it here. We're going to put it at." It was the owner of the company. He had a pool house. So I would take all this stuff to this guy's house, and they had editors there because it was all real secret. They just didn't know if it was going to work. And we were, I think, one of the first companies to try it, and it literally changed the game. And as the digital stuff started coming in, we started getting digital cameras. It was fun. But and then we just kind of transitioned from there back into the TV world. Started working for Nickelodeon and Disney again. And yeah, that was our careers have just been kind of up and down. Then the writer's strike hit, and it kind of put our careers at a standstill, and we realized that we were going to have to split up, because we were one of the few 3-man writing teams in Hollywood, and there's not a lot of those, and we couldn't get work, and so we ended up splitting up, and so I had to work I'm the one that went solo, but I didn't realize that I would have to literally start over again.
So I want to ask, so for those who, there are those who know what screenwriting is, but obviously they're just gonna they're the people who write, the scripts for the shows and the movies, right? But for you, what made you want to jump in screenwriting?
When I first started, like I said, I wanted to be a director. Mm-hmm. But again, it's funny how God works. Like, things just happen. Again, when I got out of film school, it was still analog and it was all film. There was no digital yet. And so in order to make it in Hollywood as a director, you need a director's reel. Like, you need some samples of what you've done. And back then, because it was only film, you needed a good extra 20 grand to do something like that. And my family didn't have that. I didn't have that. So I knew the other way to kind of get into Hollywood as a director was to write a good script and then have them love it so much that you're like, I'll only give it to you. I'll only sell it to you if you attach me as a director. And that, that's that pipe dream that we all have. And but what I ended up finding out while I was doing that was I actually was a good writer. And I just kept, and I had seen it. I had glimpses of it in college, but I just didn't. My mind was so focused on directing, but it just kind of fell into it, and I loved it. And then I got in, and I still have I still have a little bit of an inkling to be a director, but I'm not in a hurry. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I fell into it.
All right, no, this question, we're going to take a break after this question, but I think I love to throw this in, and I think this is where this is going to get really interesting because I want to see what you think. So you're in the TV and movie screenwriting in Hollywood. Moana came out years ago. It was a huge hit. That was a Polynesian movie. As a screenwriter from Micronesia, when do you think something like that will happen for our people?
Honestly, I hope soon. I want to be a part of it if it does or when it happens. I'm not going to say when it happens. I think it's going to come sooner than we think. The world's getting smaller, but the great thing about it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this a little later too, is with Hollywood now being their mandate has been, and I know part of it's a little bit of a hollow thing, but at the same time, in certain areas, it's not. And that diversity that they keep calling for, with the success that Dwayne Johnson and Momoa and Taika Waititi are having right now, it's opened the doors for writers and people of Nesian descent, whether you're Micronesian, Polynesian, or Melanesian. It's opening the doors for us. I'm seeing it firsthand. Like 20 years ago, when I first started, or even 15 years ago, I would pitch stories in the writer's room that happened to be island centric, where, whether it's Chamorro or Hawaiian or whatever, and they'd kind of blow me off like, nobody wants that. They'd kind of be like, yeah, whatever. Now I pitch and they want to listen. And I'm actually getting these stories now into shows. And so I think it's going to be sooner than later. And like I said, I want to be a part of it. I hope to be one of those writers that contributes to it, because I think we have just a rich history, and all the cultures that come out of Micronesia are incredible. So, yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break. The talk has been very interesting. We've learned so much. I've learned a whole lot. Like I said, I'm coming into this interview, I only knew a few things about Freddie, but until now, I think, my knowledge of who Freddie Gutierrez is has definitely grown and will continue to grow as we come back after this break. You're watching the One Micronesia Podcast, brought to you by Docomo Pacific. It's better together.
It only gets better with more. Customize and save with the fastest internet speeds in the Marianas by adding mobile, phone, and TV to your bundle with Business Bundles Plus. Docomo Pacific Business. Work better together.
For the different beats of your life, we're here to keep you connected the way you want it. Plans made for you, by you. Build your own bundle with Link. Select the internet, entertainment, mobile, and home phone plans that fit your lifestyle. Pay for what you want, not for what you don't. Build your own bundle and save with Link.
Afide Mogitin, and welcome back. It's the One Micronesia Podcast, and we're still here with the one, the only, Freddie Gutierrez, all the way out in Hollywood. All right, so Freddie, man, wow, TV, screenwriting career. What an amazing experience you have gone through, and I guess continue to go through. I mean, we're learning new things every day, right? So I'm pretty sure you're gonna have more for us if we talk in next year or something like that, or in another episode. But so let's talk about that. Your TV screenwriting career, that was amazing. But you're also doing other things too. Tell us more about your love for radio, because I believe, I forgot where I heard that, probably with Joan, that you said you before you went into all of this TV writing and everything, you had the love for radio and music. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first went to college, junior college, actually, here in California, I went to Moorpark Junior College, and I really, when I got out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was at the time I was kind of pursuing a little bit of a career in music as well. I was part of this hip hop group, and it was fun. But at the same time, I knew I wanted to go to college, but I just didn't know what I wanted. But because I had been already kind of doing the music thing, decided, I might as well kind of get into the radio world, and maybe that could be something for me. And I ended up doing really well. And Moore Park has an amazing radio television program, definitely radio program. And it's funny, my nephews now from Guam are going there, which is crazy. But going to Moore Park, and so I was there, and it was going really well. But I was in a place in my life where I was kind of all over the place, and ended up dropping out of school for a little bit. And then when I got back into school, I fell in love with film, and really, I took that first film class, and it clicked. It clicked so much that I knew this was it. And so radio kind of fell off to the wayside for a long time. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, it's funny how God worked. A guy that I had ran into in the supermarket who saw my tattoos and was asking me, are you Polynesian? I was like, no, I'm Micronesian. And he was like, oh, do you know about the dance group that's going to be performing up at the Skirball? I was like, no. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he gave me the information, and I was like, oh, and it's tomorrow. And I was like, oh, shit, I got to go. So I went up, I think it was that weekend. I went up that weekend, and there's Q, and there's the Couture and Chamorro dance group. And I'm like, and it was funny because it was there's a crowd, but it was all white people. And so when they looked up and they saw me, like they already knew, like it was, oh wait, that's not a white dude. And so after the show was over, Q immediately came up to me and we started talking, and he's like, so, Chamorro? I was like, yeah, and we're talking, and I think I had a Sanahi on too, so I definitely stood out. And he's like, hey, I do this radio show. Would you come on as a guest? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And actually, me and Frank Ishizaki went down, and we were on his show, and we just kept in touch after that. And then they ended up moving to Hollywood. They're moving their show to Hollywood at Dash Radio. And I would come down and support. I was a guest again. And Q and them were like, yo, they're giving us our own station now here at Dash. Would you want a show on here? And I was like, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Like, it kind of came 360 all the way around. And so me and a buddy of mine who I had actually written a pilot for Q and their show, and we were shooting it. And then Dash went into construction to redo their thing. So we had to shut down the pilot. We never got a chance to finish it, but one of the actors that was in the pilot that I wrote is a really good friend of mine. His name is Avery Waddell, and shout out to Abe. And Avery he's been in Hollywood for the last 20 something years. He's been on major movies and TV shows. And actually he's got a movie, a series coming out on Netflix. He's in the series. And it's a series with Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes, and Avery's in it. And so Avery and I decided to create a show for Island City called Cocktail Movies and stuff. We said, let's do a show about what we know and what we love. We're big fans of the cocktail culture and alcohol. And then we work in the movie and TV industry. So we kind of just said, let's bring all the people that we know, the actors, the people behind the scenes, the actors we've worked with, the writers and directors that we've worked with in Hollywood. Let's bring them on, have a drink with them, and let's talk movies and stuff. And so that's kind of how the show kind of came about. And so we've been doing it now for the last 4 years. So we had to take a break right now just because I have gotten so busy with my writing career, and then Avery as well has been his acting career is heating up again. And then our other co-host, shout out to Valencia Parker. Valencia just got this life-changing gig on a writing gig, so she's kind of tied up for the next few months. But we're gonna actually try and have a show in the next week or two. But yeah, we've been doing it for the last 3-4 years. We've had a blast doing it. Had some great actors, and we had like Cole Hauser, who's a really good friend of mine that's on Yellowstone on the Paramount Network. They're going into their 4th season's about to start. Cole's been on the show. We've had Sean Jablonski and Michael Malarkey from Project Blue Book. That was a History Channel show that was really, really popular. I think it was the highest rated History Channel show in history. And we've had Tevin Campbell, one of the R&B legends.
Wow.
It's funny. Tevin and I've known Tevin for about almost 20 years. It's a crazy story. We could talk about that later, but it was just cool to have Tevin back on, and we reconnected. And yeah, we just had a bunch of amazing actors, writers, directors come on the show. Tammy Townsend, everybody knows Tammy from the kids. This generation knows her from KC Undercover. My generation knows her from Family Matters. But she's been doing it for, since she was a little kid. She was on Different Strokes. And Tammy's a good friend of mine, and so she came on the show a few times. And so we've been able to kind of cash in on our relationships with people, and at the same time we've been able to introduce our listeners to a lot of cool and very unique liquor and beer and wine. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Amen. Freddie Gutierrez, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break and we'll be back to pretty much close things off. You're watching the One Micronesia Podcast, brought to you by Docomo Pacific. It's better together.
It only gets better with more. Customize and save with the fastest internet speeds in the Marianas by adding mobile, phone, and TV to your bundle with Business Bundles Plus. Docomo Pacific Business. Work better together.
For the different beats of your life, we're here to keep you connected the way you want it. Plans made for you, by you. Build your own bundle with Link. Select the internet, entertainment, mobile, and home phone plans that fit your lifestyle. Pay for what you want, not for what you don't. Build your own bundle and save with Link.
And we are back. One Micronesia Podcast, brought to you by Docomo Pacific, better together. Wow, the part that I really don't like, because it's where we kind of wrap things up and say our goodbyes and social media. But the cool part is he does throw out his social media so you can follow his journey. So it doesn't stop here. It can continue. So you can continue to follow him. If you feel inspired, well, follow him. We're going to get to that. So a message to young Micronesian individuals watching the podcast right now. They've heard your amazing career and the journey and the things that you've been through, the ups and the downs, because you went through all of that. But like you said, as a Micronesian, it's built in us that every time that we go down, we're definitely going to come back up, because we never give up. And I think that's something that's instilled in us. So Freddie, for young Micronesian individuals who, let's say, saw Hollywood as something that's far and you can't reach it, but now know that there are Micronesians in Hollywood doing so good in the different careers that they have, what message would you have for them?
Honestly, in any career you want, whether it's Hollywood or not, it's there for you. It's just about working hard. Look, I mean, when I came up, I had been told by everybody, nobody from Guam's ever been in Hollywood. Why is it going to be you, right? And I didn't listen to the voices, but I at the same time I just did the work. I did anything and everything I could to learn, to just get noticed. Like I said, I just did the work. I didn't give up. It's as cliche as it sounds. It's real. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. Especially in when it comes to Hollywood or any career that you really love, your dreams, and your aspirations. It's just about not giving up and being and just having that perseverance. And so that's my honest. My advice is just do the work and don't give up. Don't listen to the naysayers or whatever, and just know that it's gonna come, but you just got to put the work in. There's no overnight success. I mean, I may have came out of college and sold a script in 5 years, and I know a lot of people say that's pretty quick. But those 5 years, I worked I like a dog, and I sacrificed a lot, and so it just comes down to how bad you want it, right? But I know if I always tell this, if my ass can make it, then anybody can make it, because I'm nobody special. I just did the work, and so I know that there's a lot of people out there more talented than me. And I know there's a lot of Micronesians out there way more talented than me. And I know I can't wait for them to come into Hollywood and to really show what we can do. So again, it's just doing the work and having faith in yourself, faith in God, and really persevering.
All right. So Freddie, before we let you go, social media, where can people go follow you, and also your show and other things that you've worked on?
Social media, you can find me on Instagram at GUAMRO. It says GUAMRO at Instagram. And then my name is just Freddie, DDIE, so not Y, Gutierrez on Facebook. And I think I'm never on Twitter. But I have a Twitter, but I'll try and remember it. So those are the two that I really, and then there's Cocktail Movies and stuff. I think it's all one word. I got to look on. I have a guy who does our social media stuff for the show. But I think it's Cocktail Movies and stuff is the actual, Cocktail _movies _ stuff is our show page that you can find on Instagram. And the one thing I really wanted to, I'm really excited. It's still, I don't know when it's going to premiere, but it will be premiering sometime next year. I end up doing a script for Santiago of the Seas, which is a Nick Jr. show. I've never written for this young, but it's an amazing show about these pirate kids it highlights Afro-Caribbean culture. But the showrunners and the creator of the shows were so gracious enough that when I came on the show, I pitched a story about a young Chamorro girl getting magically transported into that world, into their world, and they allowed me to do this story. And so we're gonna have it's gonna be the first time Chamorro, Hawaiian, and Samoan is spoken on a kids show, on a nationally televised kids show. And then they have a song about building a canoe. They're talking about building a galidi. So they're using the Chamorro word. So we're going to see that. I'm just super excited. Once I get the air date, I definitely will be back on if it's cool with you, because I really want to promote that. And just because I as a kid growing up, I always wanted this for myself, to see something. I see ourselves on there and hear our language or hear our culture being on the air, and I finally got a chance to do it. And it's just to me, I'm praying and hoping that this is just the beginning. But yeah, it's called Santiago of the Seas. You start watching it if you want. If you have kids, if you have young kids, obviously if you're an adult, you probably don't want to see it. But if you have young kids and they like Nick Jr. shows, please go watch Santiago of the Seas. And my episode will be on sometime next year. Since it's an animated show, it takes a minute for them to animate. So, but yeah, please support that show.
Wow.
And, I just heard the song yesterday. They just sent it to me as a reference to make sure everything was okay. And it was a fun song. And it's the little Chamorro girl her name is Ha'ani. And it's pretty amazing what they're letting me do. And can't wait to just hopefully create more stuff that'll highlight Micronesian, our cultures, so yeah.
Amen. All right, Freddie Gutierrez, ladies and gentlemen, Freddie, again, thank you so much for the time and coming on the show. I appreciate it. I love the story, your life story. It was just amazing, your career and where you're at right now and where you're taking us. I think that's an amazing thing that people should know. So, Freddie, thank you so much. Sejus Masi.
Sejus Masi, man. Thank you so much. And y'all stay safe out there. Get vaccinated. And I hope to be on Guam soon. I miss home. I really do. So, and again, Sejus Masi for having me on, and can't wait to be back home.
All right. Freddie Gutierrez, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes another episode of the One Micronesia Podcast. We brought to you by Docomo Pacific. It's better together.
The One Micronesia Podcast is brought to you by Docomo Pacific. Better together.